Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Reels Like the First Time. My journey trying to experience everything film has to offer, the good and the bad, all for the very first time. I have some returning guests this week to discuss Rian Johnson's first ever written and directed film, Brick. You saw heard one of these guests rather on the episode where I discussed Swiss Army Man, and my other guest you saw discussing the Maltese Falcon. That's right, y'all. It is a Ramble On reunion. Today I am joined by Nye and Eric Muller. Hello, gentlemen.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's doing well. Did you clue her into our ongoing gag that every show ever had to start with an R?
Mm-hmm.
You did?
Actually,
Okay.
no, I didn't include that. Well, that's where because I told Allison the last time I was here, I was like, so I was pitching the idea of Reels like the first time forever. Yes. And then because with Ramble On about movies, every spin-off, whatever he had, always started with an R. Because we got to keep to the brand.
Yeah. Yes. We love that. I love that. Yes, and then I stole it because I was like, I want a new name for my show.
I mean, it's not
goes
really
with Flickin' Reel,
if you make a deal with me. So
by saying I'll
like,
I asked for it and said you can have credit.
Yeah, the IP was Eric, and it was for another one in our same space, and like Eric and I have very similar like senses of humor and the way we think. So he came up with that. I'm like, that's perfect. And then the other person we were pitching it to is like, and we're like, you're a goof for not using this because this is so much fun to do.
I'm sorry for giving you gold. I will take it away from that.
I'll take it. Maybe someone else wants this
I'll
gold.
give it to someone more deserving.
Allison. There you go. Yeah. And I will take it. And then if the show ever blows up, you will never get royalties because you told me I could have it. It's right here, right now. So you get nothing. Gentlemen,
as long as I get my name mentioned somewhere, that's all I care.
I just want to have my Gene Wilder from Willy Wonka. You get nothing.
It's like one of those little the disclaimers at the end of like any of those high end expensive drugs where it's just like. Thank you very much, Eric Muller, for this name. It was we were so happy you did it.
Or like at the end of the movie credits, just gets to the very bottom. Oh yeah, special thanks for giving me the name.
Yeah.
That's
the credits that no one's reading as you wait for like the ending of the Marvel movie, it'll just come in for the mid credits. It'll just cut in right there real quick. That's how
we both did that recently. Beard tears. We might as well mention it. So many beard tears with that new Guardians movie.
Oh my gosh! I mean, we're gonna date the time this recorded because this one will come out a little bit, post this. But yeah, I am still. I was telling Eric before we started recording that I made a huge.
She had a great Friday.
I had a fantastic Friday. I feel really good about myself with this choice. I went to go see Guardians Volume 3, and then was like, "Fuck! I still need to watch Brick. Let me go ahead and watch that, not knowing what it's about." That was I had the best. I was in the best mood Friday night.
You're probably just like rocking to yourself in your closet. Your husband comes in and visits you. Like, are you okay? Why doesn't anyone love anyone else?
I even asked him. I was like, do you want to watch this with me? He goes, nope. And like just went to bed.
Took the dogs. That's fair enough too.
Yeah, he's like,
hell of a double feature.
Barty, you don't need this. I would not recommend. 0 out of 10 recommend the double feature that I did for Friday. I learned my lesson. Well, to get into, so the movie we're talking about today is Brick. When we were all going back and forth, where Eric was really, really trying to get us to do draft day, and you and I
next year, baby.
We're both adamantly saying no in like the nicest ways possible without saying no.
How long, Eric? How long have you and Chris tried to get me to watch that movie? I feel like
since it came
years.
Out.
So, is that? Were we doing Ramble On when it came out?
It was a year before we did.
Okay, I was gonna say, so we didn't do a review, so we're probably talking 9 years ago that movie came out, something like that.
From now on, whenever you guys come on, the running bit is going to be, we were going to do draft day.
We were going to do draft day.
And then you guys will do it a day where I'm not on it. I'll be like, oh.
we get somebody else.
Dan and I by ourselves talking about draft day. It'll be great.
Be both proud and disappointed at the same time.
Exactly.
So that's
Dan
how
and
my
I
parents
schedule.
feel.
Dan and I schedule a watch along on the Flick and Reel channel specifically for draft day without you on a day you can't do it, and then review it afterwards.
He would find a way to like sneak it on his phone.
Yeah.
And he would be like watching, be like, you better talk about this.
You motherfuckers, what are you doing? But with all that being said,
they took a running back.
God damn it, it's too soon. It's why I still haven't watched 80 for Brady, mind you, as well, because that is
soon.
It's too soon. That Falcons
too soon.
I'm about to just cancel this recording and go away now. I'm in my feelings. I need a minute.
It took us. Yeah, that's a new record for us. It took us 5 minutes before the host was like, "Fuck it, not these two."
See you. Thank you for stopping by.
More like reels like the last time. Am I right?
Dan, we did it.
She'll never be heard from again.
I brought it into this world and I took it out.
Sinister plan all along. We now know.
That's how I get my revenge for stealing.
For stealing my title. So why was it? So we finally settled on Brick. So I'm really intrigued as to what it is about this movie that you guys wanted to cover it on the show.
I'll let the handsome one go first.
Thank you. Blessings, clever one.
Blessings.
It's one of those things where it was like, this was a movie, and still, like, I don't go back and revisit it all that often. I did see it. I don't think I saw it when it came out. Hold on, we'll go old school. Look, physical media, kids. This is what you should invest in. I was trying to look. So yeah, 2006. So I just wanted to see the year the movie came out. So it was of its time. I feel like there's not a super strong mystery, like it's not a genre that people are like. Sure, there were high school movies, but like once we get into like the nuts and bolts of what this is actually happening, and the fact that it's the start of Rian Johnson's career, you can see the inception of a lot of ideas from what he did going forward. And now, he's one of the most revered writers and directors working today, and like commanding his own franchise as well. And then I was thinking about this again before we started recording, and Eric can weigh in on it too. We are both, and we can touch on this depending on how far down this road you want to go. We are both very much Last Jedi sympathizers. We love that movie. We're a big fan. And we actually did another episode. I think we were trying to review Rogue One, and then our buddy who we had on was the Last Jedi antithesis. He was not a fan of that movie. So like we dedicated the first like 35 minutes
of a Rogue One review to the Last Jedi.
However,
to keep that fight going.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it was like, but it was a conversation. Like, we're all friends. It wasn't like people yelling at each other on the internet. But it's interesting too, because you like to see where these people started from, and it's interesting when you look up where this was. It was filmed in San Clemente, which is not far from where I live. I want to say it's an hour and a half away, but it's in sunny Southern California, and this couldn't be a more dreary film.
It's so dark. It's very colorless. It's very blue and white and like muted tones, which typically I'm not into. Like, I think that's been like when I've said on an episode here before, I think it was the Social Network episode, my biggest issue with Fincher is how dark all of his movies tend to be. It's like, I don't want to sit and watch green on a screen.
They're dour.
Right. But in this case, if you're going for like a noir look without being black and white, it works. And I mean, I also have to like remind myself, it was filmed in 2005 on 35 millimeter film for very cheap, using like high school students to help him out on the weekends. So like, those things aside, I understand the choice. Whether I like it or not, I can at least like understand it.
Eric, why did you want to do it?
Well, because the first time I was here, we talked about the Maltese Falcon. So I was like, let's do a noir. Because when you first suggested, I was like, yeah, this is a good movie to go back to. Especially, like I said, when I was first on here, we talked Maltese Falcon, and we mentioned Rian Johnson on that. So it just felt like the next logical step, besides draft day, the next logical step on movies for me and Allison to watch. And I have a great history with this movie. When I first moved in, after graduated college, moved into my first apartment with a roommate. my roommate Drew actually had the posters for Brick because he worked at a local theater, and I was like, "What is this movie? Why do you have like all these posters in our apartment?" And he forced me to sit down, watch this film, and I'm really glad he did.
I just appreciate for both episodes that I've had you guys on for, the movies that were covered, now including this one, are all like 90 minutes or less, it feels like. Like, I don't think Swiss Army Man wasn't super long. Like, all these, like, it's
maybe
everything's like,
150.
yeah, it's like quick movies. It's so nice. It's like, let me pencil this in right here. So thank you, gentlemen, for that first and foremost with the quick watch.
Which is interesting because this movie is short, but oddly, it doesn't feel like it, if that makes any sense.
No.
Like, normally you have the opposite where it's like, oh, that movie was so long, but it felt so short. But this is, you were right. I think this is actually under an hour. Oh, no, it's an hour and 50. So I guess we were all a little off. So it's, but it's like you were saying,
still under 2 hours, but it's a tight
2
2.
hours. But it's a tight 2. And like you were saying, that's a great allegory, a great parallel to mention it in the same breath as Fincher, because it does kind of feel like that style of tone is what they're going for. And with that kind of, it's not weird, but it's interesting to see a neo-noir take at a high school where it's, I think I was reading something about this where they were saying the movie, it's not like what high school is like, but it's what high school feels like. And everything is, it's still, even watching it again this time, it's still one of those things kind of hard to pull my brain out of, where I'm like, okay, their like consequences and their actions as far as what they're doing are just in entirely different realms. So it's like when you're looking at what these people are doing, it's like, this is really, 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 really heavy shit for anyone to be dealing with, let alone high schoolers. And it's a full-blown mob noir episode. And I also saw there was we can get into more of this later, but apparently Rian Johnson was a really big Cowboy Bebop fan, hence Brendan's look, because he looks like Spike Spiegel, and then like all the humor is just stripped out of the movie, so it's just nothing but mystery and noir.
I went into this as blind as I could, other than like the conversation we had on, in the Twitter DMs of, this is the movie that we're going to cover. So I started watching it, and then of course my husband's saying like, "Oh, you're doing Brick? Yeah, it's a good movie." And then like that was it. So I went into it completely blind, and listening to how like Joseph Gordon-Levitt starts talking, I had to pause it for a second because I was like, wait, but they're in high, what is going, and then I did look up a little bit. I'm like, oh, noir, back in. Let's dive into this now, because I have my noir glasses on. I get the tone and everything that is coming through and what they're trying to do, because going in completely blind was a little jarring at first, knowing that these are high school students,
and it's also
supposed to be high school students.
It's not quite like a Guy Ritchie where it's like you almost need subtitles, but it's like on that spectrum where it's like there is their own vocabulary for this movie that you may miss something on the first or second viewing just because some of it is so dense.
Well, and also like it's like, I know we talked like it's a tight tool, but I mean the dialogue, it goes
snappy.
Yeah, it's just like an old school noir film in that sense, where it's like they don't waste a minute. Anytime someone's talking, it's very important what they're saying.
And I love JGL as like the Bogart of
we
it.
All do.
Like we
all love JGL.
Who doesn't love the JGL, right? Like that's what we're calling him from here on out. No one needs to go through the full name.
People I don't want to associate with.
Right. People who don't like fun.
Right.
People who don't like The Last Jedi. I'm just kidding.
Which also had
so many people just turned it off.
I know. I just lost all of my listeners. It's fine.
You keep us though.
That's all that matters. I actually do need to go back and rewatch Last Jedi. I haven't watched it in a long time. I don't remember not liking it. But I don't know. I think I gotta give it another watch. It's been a while. I wasn't that familiar with Rian Johnson until watching, that was honestly, this again, because I just was not into film or movies or things like that when The Last Jedi came out. So like that was the first time that I heard the name Rian Johnson, if we're gonna be honest. And then I realized
you're allowed to be honest here. This is a safe space.
This is my show.
Right.
But I remember I did see like Looper in theaters. Had no idea that was a Rian Johnson movie.
Love Looper.
Who doesn't I love JGL with a prosthetic nose. Like that,
trying to look like Bruce Willis. Yeah.
And it literally, I remember watching this. We're in the theater watching this movie, and we have to be at least halfway through it. And I finally leaned over to my now husband, who I was just dating at the time, and I go, "That's not his nose, right?" And he just looked at me and was like, "Really? You're just now figuring this out?" And that was the thing that bothered me up until that point, until I had confirmation that I was right.
Well, and then you throw in.
I like how you were okay with the time travel aspect of the movie, but the nose—that's what was throwing you off.
It was throwing me off. It was, yeah, absolutely. That's how I roll.
You go full Ocean's 12, like, oh, the nose plays. The nose plays.
The nose does play, and that's Ocean's 13, buddy.
Damn it, you're right.
It's a fighty one. Let's see what else we can get from you guys. Let's get back and forth. But yeah, so this with Brick, kind of getting into, we can kind of like dive into it a little bit too with the all of my little facts that I thought were fun that I pulled from Wikipedia, because if it's on Wikipedia, it's true. So first fact was Rian Johnson was inspired by reading a bunch of Hammett's noir novels, including Maltese Falcon. He read prior to all of this, being like super inspired by that one. What was the other one that I had? The Glass Key. Also with the Coen brothers film Miller's Crossing. So that all plays a lot into the way that he wrote and directed this movie, which I think is super fun. I personally saw, just because I did recently watch Maltese Falcon, saw a lot of parallels.
Yes.
That I was getting from that to this.
Especially that last scene.
Yes, that's exactly what I thought about with the reveal. For sure. Have you seen Maltese Falcon, Dan?
I have not. That's one of those things. There used to be
Did you listen to the episode where we talked about?
Also no, I am shameful. That's one of the things that was a reoccurring.
So it was really great having Dan on.
Right, it was great seeing you.
Bye.
I only needed to keep you in for like 15 minutes anyway. Like we get the handsome guy in off the top, and then this is when viewers start dropping anyway. So we'll see you later.
Now we'll get into the nuts and bolts, the real meat and potatoes.
But
the problem being the handsome one is we only need you for just a short amount of time.
Story of my life.
Remind me to end this episode telling you, Allison, about the dream I had about the three of us earlier this week.
I cannot wait for that. Next bit we kind of talked about already, but how he filmed most of this at San Clemente High School, where he actually had attended school. And I thought it was really cool that he used a lot of students to help him with filming and things on the weekend. I think that was really neat. And then, of course, that it was shot in like 20 days, which is insane.
For what they accomplished, that's a lot.
Yes.
Well, and also I like how it's a high school film, but you never actually see any of it take place inside a classroom, unlike other high school films where that's always key moments, key scenes takes place in a classroom. None of that. There's only like one office scene where they had Richard Roundtree for one day.
Yep.
Yeah. To do that one scene with him. No, you bring up a really good point, because especially when you think about these like early 2000s movies, these high school movies, you have things like Get Over It, Can't Hardly Wait. Like you have like these Get Over It's great. I fucking love that movie. The movie's fantastic. She's like you have like these, She's All That. Yeah.
Not another teen movie.
Yes. All of them.
That's my Captain America right there.
That's America's ass, buddy.
It's America's ass, buddy. America's ass. But when you think of like where those high school movies were at the time, and then you have this one, and just the completely like stark contrast of it is incredible. And I love that. I feel like I have to ask this now, especially knowing like how A24 is kind of blown up. I noticed at the beginning this was a Focus Features film. Mm-hmm. Would you say that Focus Feature was the A24 of the early 2000s? Because it also gives things like some Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Gave us a lot. I don't have the list because I didn't prepare that much. I just
I think you're right, because it was that mid-tier studio that wasn't giving us, like the blockbusters at the times, or the sex comedies at the time. It was that one that was willing to take shots, especially brick. I mean,
right.
under $1 million to make, just to be able to make this film, put it out there, and then boom, money.
Right. Yeah, or they did like 2009 was like Pirate Radio. They did oh gosh, there's so many.
I would say Focus Features or maybe Fox Searchlight was also a big one around then before they got eaten by the Disney monster.
Sure.
At least distributed. And I'm trying to think if there was a big. It was also one of those ones like I feel like Focus Features, Sony Pictures Classics. There were a few that were like in the mid-aughts that were a little more like you were saying, because Eternal Sunshine is a huge one, especially. There are always those like
Brokeback Mountain. The little film.
Really?
Yeah, The Pianist. That was another one.
I liked The Pianist. I remember going and seeing that in theaters because I love good times with movies, y'all. Clearly,
looking for a sad day there.
Looking for a moment.
In Bruges, another one of theirs.
There's a big one.
Yeah. Let's see. There's another one that I saw because now I'm on Wikipedia. Where was it? This is great content. Oh, they did like Burn After Reading. That's another one. Pirate Radio. I think I already mentioned that one. So I feel like this is kind of like when I thought of indie film, I thought of like, again, because this is just the age that I was. But so when I would hear the term indie film, because I wasn't cool, it was like if it was like Focus Features, like going to the theater, going to like the one-off theater so I could see like My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Like that to me was like what it meant to be like indie film. Clearly I was very wrong on my definition of what that is.
Well, around this time, Dan will know this. I live in Columbus. There's a theater called the Drexel. That was the only place you could see brick, because that whenever a movie was released there, that was it's like, oh, this is an indie film. If it's running here.
Yeah, that's what that means. That's exactly what it means. Thank God for people like Ace Cabrera that was on previous episode talking about a ghost story where he actually like broke down what an indie film really kind of is, both for like budget and things like that. So I'm so glad I have friends that are smarter than me now.
Yeah, it's also I would say indie film. That's one of those things that it's a term that gets tossed around, but you could be an indie film. Technically, the first Ninja Turtles was an indie film. Like basically any film that doesn't have major studio financing, you can characterize as an independent movie, because you like even something like Passion of the Christ. Technically, that was an indie film. Mel Gibson financed that all by himself, and then just had to find a distributor, which is why he made so much money off of it, because he didn't owe a studio anything. So it's one of those things where it's like, what's the saying? There's no wrong way to skin a cat, or something weird like that. Like
there's more than one way to skin a cat.
That's what it is. I knew it was.
That's
close to
it. Like something like that.
Yours is a little too dark.
I forgot to say it was Schrodinger's cat, so we don't know if he's dead or alive, which makes it a little better. So
I get why we call Dan the handsome one and Eric the clever one now. Now I'm understanding it so much. It's all come full circle. Like having you together, I get it now.
Hey, it's the first time we've done one of these in years.
I was gonna say it's like writing about we were actually over a year. It was the longest break we took. It was somebody was like, "Are you guys gonna do an Oscar episode last February?" And we were like, "Sure." And then we haven't done anything since. So, although we probably should, I mean, I do still have the domain of the website, so there's no reason for us not to make shows. I'm paying for it. We have everything else.
Just do it. Just do it. This is
how the world
works nowadays.
Yeah, whatever.
That's fine.
But yeah, so in independent movies, it can mean, and that's the thing, is it's gotten so much more muddy because especially in the last 10 to 15 years, because the access to them has gotten a lot easier, where you're not waiting on those like weird one-off art house theaters that will happen to show these random little movies from the mid-aughts.
Right.
Like you get up into the 2010s, then you're going to be like social media. You can promote anything. If there's enough of a groundswell, you can probably get any movie wherever you want, depending on your theater and how willing they are to work with you. So it's, I'm sure you've even seen independent movies that you didn't even realize before you even got into the sphere. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's, I mean, and the only thing that like I wish, obviously, I feel like I say this all the time, is I just wish that like when I saw certain movies, I had a better appreciation for it. So meanwhile now doing the show, I'm very lucky to, like, I don't think I would have appreciated, I know for a fact I wouldn't have appreciated Brick back in 2006 when I was a freshman slash sophomore in college. Like, I would not have given a shit. Like, I had no idea who I know who Joseph Gordon-Levitt was from 10 Things I Hate About You, you know, but I wouldn't have
So if
I
you
wouldn't
think
have cared.
about it, this is a weird sequel to 10 Things I Hate About You. Like, his character, it's his senior year now, and things
Shit got
get
dark,
dark.
man. It got dark.
He moves because
We
of the
went from
events of
Taming
everything.
of the Shrew to like Hamlet. Like, we just like
Because the events that happened in his high school, he had to transfer. Guys, you know, you're involved in this ring where you're paying off someone to be someone's date.
right.
That's like low-key prostitution there, Holmes. So you got to move to another side of California, and now you're stuck in the middle of a murder mystery.
Can we talk about real quick, talking like getting into Brick itself and like the story? Can we just talk about like the real dark turn? I mean, it took lots of dark turns, but then like the whole idea, like when they're doing the big reveal at the end when he's talking with Lauren, where like he finds out that like the kid that Emily had actually was like his kid.
Yep.
And I'm like, this is like, I get it, but like, I'm like, this is fucking high school. Y'all, I can't. Like, this is a lot.
It takes like just a normal of, you know, it's normally sad event, and then just like turns it up to 11 because it's set in high school.
Yeah.
Not only is it set in high school and that, but it's one of those things where it's like, that's how you know at least it's well thought out and written well, because they don't strictly say it. Like, they pretty much imply it in a way that there's no other conclusion to. And that's what a lot of this movie is, where it's just like, we're not going to out and out tell you what's happening, but like, if you're even paying attention, like 60%, you're going to be like, oh shit, that's what's happening? Okay.
Well, let's take the beginning. The beginning is actually the end of the first act, but told again at the start.
Yes. And there's like another thing in here that I thought was super interesting, that like one of the things that like Rian Johnson focused on in this movie were people's shoes to like establish who they are as a character. So like you have like Joseph Gordon, like you keep seeing these shots of like Joseph Gordon-Levitt in like those brown loafers.
Yeah.
And like, so he's decided like this is the type of person that he is. And then Emily, you keep hearing her shoes click and they're dirty and they're like, it just, I feel like the way that he just kind of, the little things that he focused on, that now doing more research into it, I'm like, that's kind of fucking cool.
That's also a theme where it's like, not only the shoes, but this time around watching it, there are so many, and this is something you will only notice like if you're like, because it's such a strange choice. There are so many shots like either from a low angle or from literally on the ground.
Yes.
And what you're doing with that, again, here comes the film studies major in me coming out, is what you're seeing all of your characters look larger than life. So a lot of times when you're doing a downward angle and you're trying to make people look small, this is really the best example I can think of right now is in Death to Smoochie, where whenever Jon Stewart is talking, I think he's talking to Harvey Fierstein, and like, but Harvey Firestein's just like screaming and yelling at him. And every single time they cut back to Jon Stewart, it's like this really steep downward angle. And basically that's making a character look much smaller. Whereas the opposite of this movie happens. And also one of the things is this is the start of Rian Johnson loving to do really long takes of things. Like there's no like oneers or anything, but there are things that like you're watching and it's like a full on running sequence. And it's like these actors were probably having to run a solid 50, 60 yards in some of these takes. And tying it back into what you were saying about the shoes, that's how he winds up evading someone who's trying to attack him at one point, was just the audio of the shoes, and he takes his off so he can literally tackle him and times it up with that. So it's just a really interesting thing to see about the characters, and like something that he clearly wanted to highlight and then tie into that neo-noir feel.
Absolutely. Also, so according to like the box office numbers for this movie, Johnson made this movie for like under $500,000, like $450,000, and it ended up grossing like $2.07 million in North America and like a total of $3.9 million worldwide, which is not like a ton of money, but like he definitely made back his $450,000.
I was gonna say, but your ROI on that is
that's not bad when you're 32 to turn 400.
No.
Turn that around.
I love the stuff that Joseph Gordon-Levitt decides to do. Like 2006 was he was still like young, but like he had so much success on 30 Rock. He had 10 Things I Hate About You. Like he really was kind of like an up and coming like big star. But I always have loved that he does a lot of like these smaller like indie things, and like he's so into doing them. I think like this 500 Days of Summer, which made me hate Zooey Deschanel, which like people are mad at me for, but I'm like, that movie made me just hate her as a person. I've never watched an episode of New Girl because that movie made me hate her so much.
Eric and I have you watched New Girl, Eric?
I've watched some of it, yeah.
And again, as you were saying, full disclosure, I haven't seen 500 Days of Summer. However, for a very similar reason, because it was like, for a while, it felt like it's just her. That's her character. That's Zooey Deschanel. This is just what she is. And then it was weird because I started watching New Girl just out of fun, and Eric will be interested. The music, like the bridge music or the musical cues, are also done by Ludwig Göransson, who also did Black Panther and then Community, which is my favorite show. And so it felt very much like a cousin of that show, and especially with some of the humor. So it was one of those things, like once I got over it, and that after I got a first few episodes in, like, oh, I get why people like this show. So it's one of those things, like once you get into it, it's and the characters
I know I'm gonna love it.
Yeah,
that's the problem, is I know I'm gonna love it, and it's gonna make me like really like her again. And I don't want.
You're not ready for that.
I'm not ready for that. Granted,
You're not ready to enter her back into your heart. It's
literally been like 15 years since I've watched 500 or however long it was that 500 Days of Summer came out. I'm just still not ready to let go of that grudge.
That was John Watts. I think that was, if I had to guess, I'd say 2010. And that's an educated guess. I suppose I can pull it up because we're all on our computers
we could, but you know,
2009,
but anyway.
close, Dan.
I was real close.
Very close. You were very
close. The same year as G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra for him. Ooh, woof.
What a 2009. And he only did it because he's friends with Channing Tatum,
who hates that movie.
Because he didn't want to do it. Movie. He got dragged into it.
Oh, you can tell. He's better in 2. In the 20 minutes he is in G.I. Joe 2, he is better in that movie than the entire movie. Yeah, in the entire movie one. Yeah, kind of funny.
That's amazing. Still haven't seen that one. I have not seen a single G.I. Joe movie, and I'm not
watch the A-Team instead.
Right. Well, I mean, granted, that's usually Dan's answer to most things. It's just
that is my answer to most things. I am an action comedy whore, and G.I. Joe was fine, but the A-Team, it is a crime to this day that we never got a sequel to that movie because it was so good.
That's so funny. I love that. So again, kind of like, so getting back into things with this movie and the idea of like the noir of it all and the tie-ins with different noir film. Dan, do you have like any sort of like noir films that you have seen that you're a big fan of?
Ooh, I'm a really big fan of the first Sin City. I had to watch a whole bunch of them I remember in college I did watch Double Indemnity, which is credited.
So good.
I think it's credited as like the first film noir. And the really funny part is that main character is not a detective. He's an insurance.
He's an insurance salesman. It's literally it's so funny because when Eric and I did Maltese Falcon, a few episodes later, I did Double Indemnity with Hal Rudnick, and both Wikipedia pages say that
film is the first
is one that people consider this, and then in parentheses also the other film. So like it literally has the same line on both of them that like most film historians think it's the Maltese Falcon, while others will say Double Indemnity. So I just had to put that out in there. Double Indemnity is great though.
I remember watching. It's one of those things where it's had such an interesting turn, and I'm much more familiar with the mystery genre as opposed to specifically a noir story, because they're not as frequent as they used to be, and it was very much a thing of its time. So when they do pop up, it is really interesting, and I really enjoy it. You know what I would throw in there, even though there's no like VO, I would say 2049, the new Blade Runner. I would definitely call that a noir story.
Okay,
that's a sci-fi noir.
It's because that is, the themes are still there, even though there's a lot of neon colors. It's extremely bleak, and that was my favorite film that came out that year. And it's for a world that is like, similarly, they're trying to make it devoid. It's shot so interestingly, it's like hard to not be engrossed in it. So yeah, there's a fair amount. Most of I definitely grew up like my mom. I would watch like Masterpiece Theater with her, and she was super into mystery, so I watched a lot of that when I was younger. And the David Suchet Poirot So yeah, no, definitely a lot of mysteries, noirs when I find them, when you can watch them. So
I gotcha. Obviously, Eric, as we know, Maltese Falcon, another one of your favorites. Do you have other ones that you see or that you enjoy watching?
Like I said, the Perry Mason series on HBO, that is
Yes.
a noir series. Highly recommend. The Batman the Animated Series, that's another series.
nice.
It's so crazy how like I would never have thought of
Right,
certain
you would have
things
never
as
thought of it.
noir because I didn't understand what noir was, right?
Mhm.
Until I started doing this podcast. And now that I've watched now technically three noir films, and I'm obsessed now. But it's then taken me to go back because I have seen Sin City, and I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, that is noir. I understand why
Mhm.
it's comic book, but like it's like our graphic novel. Like I get it now. And then like you just said, Eric, like Batman the Animated Series, never would have thought of it as noir, but now I understand why it is.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's a very interesting concept.
And then also the
I
Third Man, which I'm not sure if you've watched yet for this
mm-mm.
series. Oh, when
You
you
say
do,
Third
One?
Man?
that's the Third Man with Orson Welles. It's so good.
No, I have not.
Yeah. Not the Birdman with Michael Keaton.
Yeah,
Not that one. Which I didn't realize that was the movie, like the big thing about that. I remember watching it and being like, okay, this is a cool movie. And then people were like, oh, it looks like it was filmed in one take. I go, did it? Because I don't remember.
I mean they were smart with the cuts, but
Yeah. It's not
Mhm.
like 20 or 1917 where it was like they were really trying
To
to.
do like one take. That movie was
the entire
wild.
time. Yeah,
Um, with I do appreciate the idea of taking the noir storyline and having like you have your detective, you have the assistant that's helping him, you have your femme fatale, you have your victim, your
you
bad
have the crime
guys,
boss, you have his
your crime
heavy.
boss. I get it. Just still weirds me out that they're all in high school.
That's the thing too. It's hard to not like use your own experiences and compare to it. Where it's like, man, I was not. This is so intense. Like everything that they're doing is
Yeah,
just like the simplest character is the jock, and he's literally just a tool for
yeah,
everyone in the plot. Where it's like,
yeah.
Brad Bratcham. I love that
Brad
guy.
Bramish. Like, if you put Brad Bramish in
Man,
the game, you're gonna
you,
win the game. Like
it's
it's
literally
so
one note. Yeah.
yeah. It's that one. It's that stare. And I think and Rian Johnson clearly hit it on the head with like that's the type of character he wanted for that,
hmm
while giving everybody else. I also loved what was her name? Kara, Megan Good's character,
oh yeah,
where like she always just has like a guy like underneath her, like
the lap
doing
boy.
Literally a lap boy.
literally a lap boy, just like laying in her
And I
lap.
like
She's
how
like,
she says, like,
I need
you
you to
were a
go.
freshman once. I was like, oh no. I was in theater
Yeah.
in high school. I
Yeah.
didn't treat freshmen like that.
No, I did not. I was not. I did also do theater in high school. I loved how like every time you saw her doing like like the last time you see her where she's like pretending to cry. Did you hear about? By the way, because did you hear about Dode? The fuck, just shooting him in the head
Yep.
right
Yeah.
there. Like I literally, that was the moment when I said, I need to go to bed. I'm gonna come
Yep.
back and finish this
Yeah,
movie.
there's like multiple climaxes in this movie. That's when it's like just when you think there's like not another twist coming, you're like, oh. Like I
Right.
remember, and I like talking about that. I remember when like when you like Eric was saying how they show you the end of Act 1, and then you get to Act 1, and then you found out that
Mm-hmm.
Emily's passed away. And then like as like he's sitting there, I'm like, okay, he's taking a quiet moment. Why is he's hiding the body? What the fuck is happening?
Right.
And then it
Right.
continues to like go down that road, and you're like, oh my God, like it is. I like you said at the beginning, it does feel very Fincher-esque. Like if Fincher was going to do a movie set in the confines of a high school, it
It would
does
be
kind of
this.
feel like this. Yeah.
Yeah. It really does. Yeah,
And
and it's just
also,
like
I'm sorry.
no, go right ahead.
I was going to say, this is because we didn't realize it at the time, but this was the startup of Rian Johnson as a writer with his twists and turns. Because you think
Yeah.
you know what's happening, and then boom, turns it right on its ass. You're just like, wait, what? I did not see that twist coming.
That's actually, I will take that, and I will say that's one of the reasons I know Eric and I really, 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 really like Last Jedi, because it did not care what anything had happened before. It was just
Nope.
like, this is the
Right.
movie you're getting, deal with it. and it
Right.
was like
This is the one that I've
unapologetic in
written and
so many
I've
ways.
directed,
Yes.
and this is my movie. And I think that's why I definitely do think I probably prefer Last Jedi over Rise of Skywalker, just in the sense that like they brought back JJ Abrams. He's like, okay, I'm gonna go back to doing my story, and we're gonna like just retroactively do whatever I can to like make this work versus fuck you and what you did.
We literally
So,
vented, I think, for a solid 30 minutes in the parking lot after Eric and I watched that movie, because we were like,
in
somehow,
the parking lot in the middle of December while it's cold, and
yeah,
then like
we were,
once we both got done getting into our cars, like, no, we should have just had our phones out and recorded that the entire time. We could just
that was
put it,
so
immediate
funny.
posted
reaction.
it.
Yeah, it was just somehow they had upset two different fan bases and then didn't satisfy either one of them. It made no sense to me.
Exactly. No sense whatsoever.
Yeah. But that's us being old and jaded and cynical, whereas there are younger generations who will grow up with that as their Return of the Jedi. So, more
right.
power to them.
Good for them.
That's another reason that I'm happy we didn't have a straight through ramble on going on, because for a long time things were just so negative and toxic. And I was fucking over it. So like even those opinions, like I'll probably go watch it again at some point. I'll probably have a better time than I had when I first saw it. I'm too, the energy it takes for some people to like have hot takes and hold on to them. I'm just like, and this is a newer term that I've never actually said out loud. They just go touch some grass. Like
touch some grass.
Have some perspective.
It's
like
great.
This is not the end all be all. If you are taking this much time,
right? Open up a window curtain, see outside.
Yeah. Breathe. Go ground yourself. But yes, no, absolutely.
I think it's honestly in my heart of hearts, I think a lot of times it's displacement. Like you're going to be venting angry so much about something else. There's something else going on that you're
100%.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, but like kind of going back into talking about like twists and turns. The one thing I think I love about noir films is nobody is a good person.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
No one, like even Brendan, like probably the only good person in all of this is Brain, and it's because he's just a nice guy helping his friends.
If he's actually real or not.
I was gonna say, yeah, and there's a theory that he's not even real.
No, tell me this theory.
That was one of them.
Yep.
Go ahead,
Dan.
I think it was on IMDb where it was like somewhere on a message board or on Reddit or something. Somebody had posted a question where they were like, because you never see Brain interact with any other characters. It's always over the phone that he's recounting something that had happened and someone that had talked to him. So you never see Brain interacting with anybody else other than Brendan. So there's a theory that's just Brendan.
Yeah, like at the very end, he doesn't show up until after Laurel leaves. So every time you see him, it's always just him and JGL.
Son of a bitch.
Yep.
I'm not going to sleep tonight now. This is what's going to keep me. This is my new sleep
paralysis. I gotta go watch it
demon.
again.
My new sleep paralysis demon is Brain. And I'm just trying to figure out where he comes from.
I mean, I'm wondering why you named it that
character. We apologize to your husband ahead of time.
Right. But no, that makes sense, because why is he called Brain? Like, is it him?
Mm-hmm. Because and if you think about their conversations, a lot of it, like Brain,
it's one-sided.
It is very one-sided, where it's kind of just Brendan talking things out and saying what he's going to be doing. And like he asks Brain a few questions, but it's not like it's not like a full-blown like back and forth.
Trying to like problem solve and talking out loud to yourself. So instead of talking out loud to himself, he created Brain.
He's talking to another character. And there is, I would say, like near the climax.
Let's call Rian Johnson and find out.
Yeah. And
Brian has gone on the record and has never confirmed nor denied this theory.
Yeah, he is mum's the word on that one. But I will say because there is a disconnect, like I want to say 2/3 of the way, probably right around the time Dode is killed. I think there is a disconnect. And at one point, Brendan does apologize to Brain, because I remember him saying that like, we're going to have to get dirty. It's going to have to go dark, blah, blah, blah. But then at one point, I feel like he might snap at him, or he might ignore him. And like, he goes through something anyway. And like,
there's a time where he's clearly concussed. He has a concussion because he's gotten the snot kicked out of him multiple times by Thugger, and like he's always a little off, and he's just sleeping all the time.
Yeah. Oh man. Wow. Everything's changed now. Yep. My entire opinion of it, not that I had a bad opinion, but like minute 42 of this podcast, my whole like idea
Rian
of what
Johnson,
I just
you
watched.
son of a bitch.
Fucking asshole.
You got her
God
again.
damn it. God damn it, Rian Johnson.
Yeah, I think that was in the IMDb trivia. That's where we both probably read it. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I was like, I thought about it for a second. I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
It does.
It really does. Like when you think about it and who he's interacting with and what he's doing, that makes so much sense.
Especially with the Rubik's Cube, just picking right up.
Yeah. I first thought that was Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I'm like, oh, JGL does Rubik's Cubes too?
Well, he does it in the Ed and Snowden film.
Haven't seen that one. Put it on the list.
Much. I mean, if you're gonna watch another, I mean, it's not up there with Draft Day, but you know,
we're gonna have to bring back the Rumbles, and it's gonna have to be the A-Team versus Draft Day, and Eric and I
love this
arguing.
I love this. I love it so much. I'm so glad I'm bringing Ramble. I feel like I'm bringing Ramble on back together, and people can thank me for bringing that up. But I will ask for royalties.
We had our own knockoff movie fights, is what that was. Yeah, but it was so much. It was so much longer. If you can even imagine that, it was ridiculous. I think the episodes average 2 hours.
We never edit it.
No,
because who wants to do that?
Not me.
No one.
Not me.
So that's why I don't. That's why I have a Sean Wingblade. Thank you, Flickin'
You're the best, Sean.
That. Thanks, Sean. We love you. Mwah. Big shout out,
buddy.
Love for Sean.
Sean is your brain.
He is. So I know you haven't seen Maltese Falcon, Dan, but I do want to like harp on like the ending of this because they're starting to tie up everything. So we now know that, you know, Tug killed Emily, and then he like, you know, lost his shit on everybody else. Now everybody's dead because there's like a shootout at the house. But then the whole time that like that Laura is trying to like play this victim and everything, she's now getting the tide turned on her because really at the root of all of it, it was her.
Yes.
And it very much harpens back to, I mean, not without, I mean, I feel bad with doing spoilers, but you know what? It's already on an episode and you just need to go watch it anyway. But it's kind of like that same thing where like you think something is solved and then there's like this last little bit. And it felt so much like I was rewatching the ending of Maltese Falcon. And I really feel like in a way that Rian Johnson's kind of paying homage to it versus copying it because of how well done it was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially like, okay, so it plays out just like that in the Maltese Falcons. You get, you know, the main guy's getting taken care of. Instead of the fat man, it's the pin. He's dead. Tugger gets pinned with everything, literally. Ellie's death. And then, you know, so then it comes down to, you know, the head detective and the femme fatale. And, you know, you think they're going to have this happily ever after. It's like, no, I know everything you did wrong and I'm pinned it on you. And also... Sorry,
so you're also going to go down for all of this.
Quick like sidebar, like I know in high school for me, it was like weed was the main drug that was circulated around. Heroin?
Man.
Bricks of heroin?
People doing that age, bruh. Look.
In 2005.
In 2005.
Cutting years ago.
Taking it and then recutting it with something bad that ends up killing people. Wild. Look, I don't judge. Everybody has their demons, but
so I like how you can draw the line anywhere you want, and you're drawing the line not at dealing heroin,
not at high school students dealing heroin.
Okay. I mean, you know, I'm judging. Sorry, I'm going to judge. I'll say it.
2005, we were in a like the worst recession since like the Great Depression.
That was 2008. That was after the crash. That wasn't 2005.
Right.
You're in the ballpark though. It was approaching that.
we were in there.
You know what? Now I'm starting to figure this out. The pin bought the house for him and his mom with the money he was making off that heroin.
Well, he had 10 bricks. That's where the term came from. 10 bricks.
Him and Tugger literally had posses in little armies at their disposal. But anyway, back to the ending. Where Brennan and Laura are literally same like shot. It's like almost like a shot for shot.
What it was literally a perfect, the way that they are standing and looking at each other. He's looking down at her, she's looking up at him, and like it's just that same tone. It was just perfection. It's probably one of my favorite like scenes of a movie I've watched in a really long time.
That's awesome.
Because it was just done so good. Speaking of scenes, I think this is probably a good time to like kind of ask you guys, you know, for a movie that is as heavy as Brick, your top 3 moments for this movie.
Ooh, I really like the one that always stuck in my head, and the one that like would never like really caught me the first time I saw it, and I was happy to see it again this time, is when he first confronts Dode and how they're all kind of stoners just hanging out behind the trash can, and he's saying like he has all his sentence, like I have all 5 sentences and I got a full night's of sleep last night, so that puts me 6 up on the lot of you, and everyone else is just kind of like chill, man. Like he's coming in that hot with all of that energy, and
and like the other stoner bros are like, bruh.
Yeah, they're like, dude. And he takes the slide whistle that he's doing with the straw. I remember doing that after I saw the movie, and like it's a real thing you could do. I just never tried. And took it tight in the knot. So I think it's interesting to me, and it's one of those things I hadn't categorized, like just picking 3. These are just 2 that popped into my head immediately. And the things he does and he's willing to do, it's interesting. Like I would want to, it's such a dense movie. Like I almost want to watch it focusing on every character, because that's another thing in the trivia that says there's not one scene that Brendan is not in. He's literally in every scene in the movie. And so when you think about him as a character and how it's like he loved Emily so much, but then it's like she didn't love him back. And that's, you know, even though she was pregnant when she died, looking at the type of character and the type of man that they're construing him as, like the lengths he's going to for someone who has essentially broken his heart. She had to have known he was the type of man who would go to every length he goes to in the movie, especially like when he kicks the shit out of Brad Bramish, and Brad Bramish is like the high school prototypical jock who like you don't do. I remember I winced, like he kicks him in the shins twice, and I'm like, oh god, I know what that feels like.
That looks like oh yeah,
that hurt.
So it's interesting that like the just kind of the way they're doing it, because everyone, especially in high school, everyone talks a big game, like and it's always, you're always getting that threat of violence. So it's funny to me that the 2 scenes, and maybe even 3, because I think about the time that he finally gets in, the other one that sticks out in my head is when he finally hooks up with Tug, and like Tug acts like he's gonna run him over, and they try to make that very suspenseful and those things. It's just showing the type of physicality, how he is showing you what a character he is in all of his actions, whether he's getting his ass kicked, whether he's kicking somebody else's ass, and like how he's going to get to the bottom of it regardless of what's happening. And like the what's the word I'm trying to pull, like his not due diligence, but like just how far he'll go.
Dedication,
that's a good one. It wasn't quite what I was thinking, but that works.
I love that. What about for you, Eric?
I mean, we've already talked about it, but just recently, but the fight with him and Brad, and because again, it's one of Rian Johnson's scenes. Always convert, you know, the expectations, subverting expectations. Because again, it's dealing with the high school jock, the bully who's running his mouth, and you know, you think he's just going to annihilate Brendan, and nope, Brendan wins that one.
I love that he keeps like popping back up too. Like he, no matter how many times he gets it, he keeps coming back. When he's throwing
like everything with Tugger,
every punch. Yeah.
And it's not until that time where he's like in the tunnel with Dode again that like he's finally like succumbing to all of his injuries. That you're just like, this guy's getting his ass kicked left and right.
It was funny you said concussion, because I always like in my head canon, because they don't say it, but I always thought he had like internal bleeding or something. Like I thought there was something else going on, because you can't. I think things have changed. I think when we were growing up, it was like you weren't supposed to sleep on a concussion. Now it's kind of okay. Like that's not like a hard and fast rule as it was once. But just the way he's behaving, it's like he's fucked, or he has like broken ribs or something. Like there's something. I
mean,
he's
got those, but I mean, because especially the one scene where he's like waiting for Tugger outside his car, like he's going to smash the window or the windshield.
Yeah, that's right before they meet. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just keeps punching him in the face. It's you're going to get a concussion if that happens. Not only is he getting punched right here, he's also hitting the ground.
Right. Makes sense.
My second favorite scene, just because I gotta mention the fact that they have Richard Roundtree, the king of the blaxploitation noir film Shaft, in there, because that's like the closest you'll get to the detective talking to the chief in this film. And I love that. It really is like, because I was totally waiting for Brandon to say like, I'll turn in my badge and my gun. I don't care anymore.
Also, Dan, I'm gonna have to throw in a warning before this part comes up where you did that deep "that's right" voice for all of my listeners, because like that's not nice to do to them. That's not happened. Nice.
I did an episode of
you can't catch people off
recently.
Guard like that with the handsome sounding voice.
It was funny. I saw the comments. I did an episode of Settle the Score a couple months ago, and it was like, I just want to listen to Dan talk, and I was like, there are podcasts for that. That could be amazing.
Yeah, but are you going to talk like this the entire time? Can you do this?
What was I was about to pull the site quote out, be like, it's the smooth storm. With a
God, I gotta throw another. You gotta warn people, Dad. You gotta give a warning before then.
Oh yeah.
Eric, what's your other favorite? Your last one?
Oh, as we've mentioned already, the last scene, just because again, just how well executed it was between Laura and Brandon. The acting from Nora and JGL just phenomenal, and just Rian Johnson's direction, and again paying homage to Maltese Falcon. It's just like, because it probably didn't hit me the first time I saw it, because I haven't watched the Maltese Falcon in years, but thanks to you, I've watched it in this calendar year. So like, it was just like, I was like, hold up.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. That's definitely one of mine too. But I feel like anything with the noir, when it's getting tied up and you're getting that big final reveal, that's always going to be like a favorite moment for me, just kind of in general. I liked the scene where he's laying in bed with Laura, and when he realizes that he's putting the two and two together, but based off of the cigarette butts. And finding out that Tug, and then he tries to see if like Tug wants to smoke, and Tug's like, I don't smoke cigarettes. But seeing that it was the same one from the car from earlier in the film, where like it spooks Emily while she's on the phone. And then, so I think like that moment, that I love those small little like pivotal moments. You forget about things, but you're like, this is going to come into play at some point. I actually really liked it. It put my anxiety through the roof, but the final scene in the Pin's house, where they're trying to figure out like where the brick is, like this 10th brick now that's been stolen, and if it's contaminated, and like trying to telling like Tug to like dose, like, yo, take some heroin, bro. Let me see that it's not contaminated. I'm like, if this guy doesn't do heroin and he could probably die, it's not because it's contaminated, it's because he's doing heroin.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to the Pin's mom being like from the Midwest, because she is so nice to everyone. I got it. Nope, taste it's kind of like soda. Hey, how about some apple juice? It's country.
My son's got 20 friends over right now, and none of them are saying anything to anybody. Like,
right? She's like,
damn it, every one of those cups is filled.
Every one of them. She's such a good mom. But that whole altercation, I think, down in the basement before like the big everything, where Joseph Gordon-Levitt just kind of runs away. The whole ending of the movie, like the last 30 minutes of that movie, is nothing but like an anxiety rush to a good conclusion, I think.
Yeah, that's when you get the concurrent climaxes almost, where it's like it starts with Dode being killed, and then it kind of doesn't slow down for the rest of the movie, where it's just like, how do you tie this bow? And then when you get to the conclusion of Brendan as that character, where it's like literally Laura thought she was ahead of him, and it's like, nope, he was like always suspicious. He's like, sure, she kissed him, but like she's so committed, and it's done so well. Like you were saying, the parallels to Maltese Falcon, I'm sure you know better than I do, but like she's so committed 100% of the time, even until like he's like, I tipped him off. He's like, I wish, he's like, I hope, he's like, I really hope I'm wrong, and that way we can be together. But he knows so well in his gut, like, nope. He's like, she's bad. Like I knew it from the start, and like,
especially when she gets the last word too, and she's like, she didn't love the dad, and it's like,
Fucking Laura. God damn.
How does that, like, this is one of those things, man. Now I want to see a short of like, what would the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead short for Brick be like? Where it's like, did you hear what happened with Brendan and Emily? Like, they broke up. I heard she might be pregnant. She's pregnant. Oh my god! Like the real high school like gossip around all of this.
Like like what actual high school students would do.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
at least like I don't know, maybe not.
Well,
I also wasn't very cool in high school, so like if people were dealing drugs, I never would have known because like I'm like, oh my god, what do I do with this? I don't understand.
Well, everyone would be on AOL. It's a messenger talking about this.
I can imagine Allison being like, "Who handed me this Bartles and James? Where did it come from?
What? I don't understand. What is this? What is the beverage?
This tastes like Sprite.
I can hardly taste the alcohol in this as I'm like throwing up in my toilet. Just kidding.
Sorry,
I didn't
Mom.
drink in high school. You had to be invited to parties in high school. I wasn't.
There was I. As the pastor's kid, I was definitely not invited.
You brought the communion wine.
Yes, fantastic. With all of this being said, I think this is the time now to go into Letterboxd, where I will rate it out of 5 stars. And upon this first watch, I will give Brick 4.5 stars.
There you go.
I enjoyed it. I love noir films. I think probably watching it more than once will maybe make me like it even more, and I'll be able to pick
that theory about the brain going on.
Yeah,
that has changed everything. I'm like dying trying to talk with this stupid cough, but that literally has changed everything. And now I'm gonna go. What I love about noir movies that I'm learning is you're not gonna get everything on a first time watch. No. You're just not. There's going to be something. It's like going back and watching, Rian Johnson, Glass Onion, A Knives Out story. Like when I go back and watch that again, I know I'm going to pick up on so many different things I didn't pick up the first time I saw it, because I now know like who did what and whatnot. So I'm definitely want to give it another watch and give it another go again, because I really had a good time with it. But not under the circumstances of when I watched it.
Right, not immediately
as a chaser to Guardians 3, where you're already kind of an emotionally compromised.
I'm already
the emotional shot. Now here goes the chaser.
Jesus, no, God,
woof.
It was not smart.
Now I'm just trying to imagine doing it the inverse way, watching Brick first, then going to Guardians.
Where I'm already sad, so it's fine. It reminded me of, before we get out of here, I'll tell the story. When her and Dallas Buyers Club had come out.
Oh no.
So what we did was we were like, Frank and I were like, we knew we wanted to see both because we knew both were going to be really good, getting Oscar nods, all of this stuff. We were like, well, which one do we want to go see? AI technology movie or the one about AIDS? Like, her cannot be that sad. This one's about AIDS. So we went to go see her, and we walked out of that movie and we were like, what the fuck? So then the next day came around and we decided, well, we might as well go see Dallas Buyers Club now, because there's no way anything can be as sad as the ending of her.
Well, yeah. How'd that go?
It was still, we went in with the expectation of it being a sad movie, and still her broke me more than Dallas Buyers Club.
I don't know if I've had an emotional wreckage like back to back. I think the two weirdest double features I ever did, I think I did The Lobster and Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping back to back.
What a wild choice.
That was a really interesting day. Especially, I was going to say, thankfully Popstar was second, because otherwise that would have been really rough. And then I did another time, I did It Chapter 1 and Mother.
Ooh. I haven't even seen Mother, but like I saw It Chapter 1. That ruined my day with that one.
Yeah.
There's a longer story. Did we do have a, I can, if you want to hear our thoughts on Mother, I can send them to you, because it's a weird movie. That's a whole other podcast.
And spoiler alert, I haven't watched it either, so I am hosting this conversation. But
was it me and Nate and you?
Yeah,
is that what it was? Okay,
it's the three of us. But I was like, this is the Bible, right? It's a God movie, right?
Like, that's what that is? That's what all this is?
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. And knowing that the movie makes a lot more sense, but like it still doesn't make much sense.
And I told Allison before, like my weird, like 2 movies in the same day, The Hangover and then Up.
Whoa.
Great choices.
That's talk about an emotional roller coaster.
All right, so before we go, I gotta tell about this dream I had earlier this week.
Yes.
Really quickly. So like the three of us were on like a film set. It was like for a commercial TV series or something like that. And it was set in a church. You were a little tipsy there, Alice.
Perfect. Sounds about right.
And Dan was answering
the toast. Really well.
And like for some reason one of my ex-girlfriends was there, and like, you know, we're doing the whole thing and she's being a pain in the butt, and like at the end of the dream I'll see you go, there's no way you dated Eric, because there's no way he would ever date a bitch.
That sounds exactly like something I would say. Sober. I don't even need to be drunk to say that. I would say that. Would I say it to her face? Maybe not, but I would have said it to you and Dan,
but
on a podcast.
Yeah, right.
But also, I think, like I said, the alcohol would help you saying it in real life.
Yeah, probably. Look, I wouldn't put it past me. I could be a monster. I'm not gonna lie.
But you're our kind of monster.
Right.
Exactly. I am your monster, and you guys appreciate me for it. So
we do.
Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me.
Well, thank you for having us
for another episode. It was so great having you guys. I'm glad we could do a little Ramble on reunion. It was fun having each of you for your own episodes. Now I have you together. It definitely won't be the last time. But before we get out of here, Dan, what do you have going on? Where can people find you?
I guess I do have other things to plug. Well, look out for the possible return of Ramble on, because we always tease that it was a joke where we would take like months off and then come back and do a string of episodes. So there's really no rhyme or reason. As if we were actually trying to grow an audience, we would probably schedule it out and have much more planning going on. But since it's just he and I talking movies, we kind of just do whatever we want, and that's worked for us for
years.
6 years. Yeah, wow, we were doing it for a long time.
Let me tell you, I plan it out and I still haven't grown an audience. So
it's
literally my life went marriage, podcasting with Dan.
I was going to say, his wife Sarah had told me on more than one occasion she had referred to her life as before and after Dan came into it. So that was the thing. So I do still co-host a community podcast as well called Apartment 303. We'll be recording a new episode soon. Also, I don't know if you guys saw, but I was in the most recent Theory of a Dead Man music video, so you can go see that. Yes, so that's on YouTube. If you just look up Theory of a Dead Man, the song is called Stuck, and also Just the Two of Us. I can't remember where the parentheses is, but it's one of those. It's a cover of Just the Two of Us, so everyone knows that song, and then they kind of tweaked it, so it's about a relationship in the pandemic. So that was a whole lot of fun to do. I think that's more or less what I have going on right now.
Awesome. Can they find you on Twitter?
Yes, I am at OhiDanNye on the various social medias.
Nice. How about you, Eric? What do you have going on?
Not a whole lot. Literally, I'm about ready to become vacation mode Eric here in a mere couple of days. So you won't see or hear me for a while, except for pictures of me on various beaches in North Carolina.
Yay.
Perfect. We love that.
I'll be living in the moment for the next,
that's all that matters.
For the next 9 days.
All that matters.
That's right.
And big thank you, of course, always to all of you. If you're here watching on YouTube or listening on your audio platform of choice, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review if you're listening on audio. If you're watching here on the Flick and Reel YouTube channel, be sure to like this video. It really helps with the algorithm. Leave your thoughts in the comment on Brick or your favorite Rian Johnson movies, or even how you feel about The Last Jedi, because if it helps the algorithm, I will take it. You can also hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon to get notifications for every time we have new things drop.
I think it's there. I think it's there.
Sometimes
right there.
You can follow me on Twitter at Allison Salamone. You can also follow the show at Reels Like Movies. And until next time, my friends, be safe. I have to go watch more movies. See ya.
Bye.
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 Ahoy, ahoy. Got it in there, Dan.
Is it like Aloha? Can you do it both ways?
Why not? What's Alexander Graham Bell gonna do? Come back from the dead and kill me?